You know those times when you start talking and then you realise, oh, I should actually press record. So I said, hey folks, and then I realised I hadn't pressed record yet. Oh well, I got it right the second time about 2 seconds later. So I'm just going to have a few words about this lovely book. I don't think I've spoken about it yet, except briefly in another video where I said this was a really good read. I think I used the word easy. I hope you can all understand me. My voice is a bit interesting at this moment. And my hair has suffered from being wet from the rain. I often wonder, if I stand outside in the rain and get wet, will I grow? I could use the extra height. So, Beyond Uhura, Star Trek and Other Memories is by Nichelle. It's really hard to let old habits go. Her name is Nichelle Nichols. I do not remember why she changed her name to Nichelle, but she liked it more than she liked her original name of Grace. And it's her choice. Her name, her choice, what she gets called. She is an amazing person. And if you're wondering where you know her face from, not necessarily her name, but her face, she was Lieutenant Uhura in Star Trek. She was the first black actor to have a role equal to the other actors. So, and we see that in the book. At one stage she's told it's sad what they're doing to you, and she realises that the studio is being racist, and so she goes down to the mail room and discovers she's been getting the same amount of mail as William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, but the studio was saying no, she can't have it, don't deliver it to her. So she then had to go down to the mail room and pick it up. So let me go back a bit and talk about her background. Her grandfather was white and her grandmother was black, and he looked at his fortune that he was going to get and he said, well, stuff you, I love this woman, I'm going to marry her and move in with her, and created a town of Robins in somewhere in America. I have forgotten, and I'm not looking it up. And basically ignored any attempts for his father to bring him back home, because he was in love and he didn't want to marry because of social connections or social mores. He wanted to marry for love. And that worked well, because then we ended up with Nichelle Nichols. I'm not going to sneeze, I'm sure. If I tell myself that, it won't. I'm sure it'll happen anyway. You can tell I do not edit my videos. So I loved this book. We get to hear about her background, how she got into dancing, how she ended up in ballet, and from there she's still learning ballet in one part of the day, but the other part of the day she's then learning about African dancing with the drums and all that beautiful iconic music, which I much prefer to ballet. I struggle with ballet. And we get to hear about her affairs and who she's still friends with. And we get to hear some of the backstory behind how she got into Star Trek, and some of the racism that she encountered, and how she almost left because of it. But then she went to a meeting of, I don't have the page in my head, otherwise I'd look it up, but it was a meeting of some organisation, a black organisation, so I wouldn't be allowed to join. And someone said, "Oh, we've got a big fan who'd like to meet you," and she said, "Yes, okay." And towards her is walking Martin Luther King, and she says to herself, "Well, this fan will have to wait because that's Martin Luther King." Turns out he was the fan, and he talked her into staying on Star Trek because her role was so important. And a lot of people watch the current Star Trek franchises, whatever they are at the moment. I've not kept up with the names. I've watched bits and pieces of them, but that's about it. And they say, "And when did Star Trek get woke?" Which is all very well, but Star Trek has always been woke, right from the word go, from the very first moment. And it was quite deliberate for Gene Roddenberry to put Nichelle Nichols in as woke. So if anyone says to you, "Oh, Star Trek, no, it's so woke at the moment, it never used to be," they're idiots. Well, did I say that out loud? Yes, I did. Because it's always been woke. Which is how come you got the first interracial kiss with Bill Shatner and Nichelle Nichols. Had a brain fade just for a second. It's like, do I want to say the characters' names or do I want to say the actors' names? I could rave about this book forever. And I have actually written quite a few words about it on my blog, and that will get published at some point. I don't know when. I don't know when this will get published. Not tomorrow. One of the things that she did in her life is to help promote space travel. The NASA space agency there. The word travel is wrong, I'm sure. Anyway, so she helped get people like Sally Ride into NASA and into the space program. And she helped get other people into the space program because she promoted it. She went to school, she went to uni, she went to whoever would listen to her and talked about how important it was to go to the stars. And bearing in mind she'd metaphorically gone to the stars many times in Star Trek. So the thought was that she knew what she was talking about. Excuse me. And she helped. There were people who looked at her doing what she did in Star Trek, doing what she did for the space agency, and said, "I want to do science. I want to go into science. I want to go into space." So she's been a huge influence over and above. That's my whiteness talking there, because I'm about to say that over and above the fact that she stayed in Star Trek as an equal person to Captain Kirk and Leonard Nimoy's character, the Vulcan. His name's escaping me for the moment. It's got pointy ears. You know who I'm talking about. So she got equal billing with them, despite the studio saying no. And she was looked on as equal. And that's huge for the black community. Absolutely huge. I mean, how can you do something in life if you don't know, if you can't see yourself out there, if there is no one out there for you to see yourself as? So she role modelled for so many people. And the reason I'm saying that's my whiteness showing is because I'm saying it over and above all of what she did for young people, or the whole role models, and saying, "Oh yes, I can do this, you can too." She then spoke about NASA and got the space program moving. And there is an organisation she founded, Women in Something. Women of Movement, Women in Control. No, both of those are wrong. And I only looked at it last night. No, it wasn't even last night, it was this morning, because I woke up at 4 a.m. and couldn't get back to sleep. So I came into my office and I wrote about Nichelle Nichols. And I think that's probably why I can't remember all the things I want to say, because my brain it is now about after 8 p.m. I haven't entirely been awake all that time. I did go back to sleep for another couple of hours, but yeah, I got up and I wrote. I did something useful. Then I had breakfast and then I went back to bed. And the organisation that she's founded is not listed on the back. So I will put it in the description. That'll be easier. So I will put in the description this organisation that she founded, and this organisation where she was attending a function, and Martin Luther King came up and said, "I'm a big fan." Now, if Martin Luther King was walking towards me, I'd be doing a big panic, because he's a big man and I'm just little old me. And I'd be hoping that he would talk. On the one hand, I'd be wanting to talk to him. On the other hand, I would not want to open my mouth, because out of my mouth would spout all sorts of rubbish. But it would be amazing to talk to him. Sadly, he's been gone a long time. We happened to be in Washington on the 50th anniversary of his speech. And I had no idea. I didn't even realise until quite late in the day when I'm watching the telly and there's the news and they're talking about it, and I'm like, oh my God, I could have walked to that area. I could have seen those thousands and thousands of people. So, there you go. Poor timing. But it was amazing to be there on that day at that time. And 50 years ago, well, it's more than 50 years now, I was not very old. Possibly I was not anything. I am so glad I read this book. I'm racking my brains as to where I got it. Possibly one of those mini conventions where people were selling off all their old things that they didn't want anymore, and I looked at it and I said, this is going to be a great book, I need it. And it's been sitting on my to-be read pile for far too long. And finally, when I read it, I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I've read this. It is the great book that I thought it would be. I'm so happy to have it on my shelf. This is not going anywhere. I may lend it to someone. In fact, I better put my name in it if I'm going to lend it to my mum, because I've done that already. I already planned to lend it to Mum. That's how good this book is. That's how good it is. I want to lend it to Mum and see what she says. That will be interesting. Of course, I'm not going to come back and tell you what she says, but it'll happen. And I know, because I've already put my name in the front. And I loved all these photos. You've got her grandparents. How do I get this there? You've got her grandparents up there where my fingers are. Then you've got her father. Then you've got her mother. And you realise where she got her looks from. And there's a whole heap of other photos in here, including Star Trek stuff. Oh, I'll just show you the Star Trek one. There's a few of them. Yeah, so she's made some differences to people in her life, and that is a huge, huge thing to say. Out of all the photos, I actually think this one is my favourite. It is so atmospheric, so beautiful. And it was taken around 1970. The caption says, in a quiet moment, soon after Star Trek's cancellation around 1970, provided by the author. So anyway, if you managed to get this book. It's a great read. The racism stuff is a little hard to read. And some of it, for me being white, some of the racism, I didn't actually see it until she pointed out to us. So I needed that. I think I've tried to finish up twice now. So I'm going to put my book down and I'm going to finish up, and I will say see you on the next day, week. I don't know. Bye.